All right, we're ready for making graph number 2, the bar graph. So where is the data for this bar graph? It is in a different tab of this spreadsheet. If you look at the very bottom of your spreadsheet, you'll see several tabs: line graph, bar graph 1, scatter plot graph 1, and bar graph 2. So if we click on bar graph 1, there's a whole different data set because, of course, you're not going to make your bar graph with the same data as the line graph because that's different data calls for different kinds of graphs. So this bar graph, as you probably noticed from looking at it, is very similar to the kinds of experiments we did with the mealworms, right? This is looking at, well, would mealworms prefer to be with oats or with styrofoam? And then did timed observations. And we know we're going to make a bar graph because we're comparing those two categories. Are you in the oats or are you in the styrofoam? We also know that we're going to make a bar graph with just 2 bars, not one for each individual. You know that because you can see the graph you're supposed to make, but you also know that a graph of all the individuals would be crazy town. Let's just look at one for funsies. If I did highlight all the data and just said I highlighted the data and I pushed the graph button and it should do it for me, and oh, not line, okay, whoa, there we go, there's my bar graph. When I look at that, I cannot tell if they prefer to be in one area or another. It does not answer my question. It may give me some sense of their movement patterns. A line graph would be better at that if they movement over time, but this doesn't answer my question. So this is not what we want to do. No, we need a graph of summarized data, right? Either averaged or totaled, or sometimes percentages for a bar graph. We're doing totals in this case. So how am I going to get the total of each one of these? Please don't break out your calculators. Don't do the work. Make the spreadsheet do the work. So we're going to have the spreadsheet do the calculations for our, and also make our graph. To do that, I like to make a tiny little itty bitty table within this sheet, within this tab. So I'm going to pick a cell kind of out of the way, maybe right here. Okay, and I'm going to type mealworm location. Okay, and then below that I'm going to say in styrofoam, and I'm going to say in oats. All right. Okay, so that's my independent variable, the location and the 2 locations. And then next to that, I'm going to say total observations of mealworms. Okay, and then, so I need the total observations of mealworms in the styrofoam in this box right here. To do that, we're going to have it do the math. So click in the box where you want the total, and then we're going to select this button here, which is functions. Okay, and when I click on functions, I want sum because the sum is the total. But you'll notice there's lots of options. The next one, the most common ones are at the top. Sum and average are the most common. So I'm going to click sum. When I click sum, it's basically asking me with this question mark, sum of what? What do you want me to make total up? And that's, at this point, we're going to highlight, click and drag all these numbers. These are the numbers that we want added up. Okay, click and drag and then hit return. And it has just given me 28 is the total of all those numbers. So we have the total there. It also is like, hey, I'm super smart. I think what you're trying to do is get the total maybe of the next thing. Is that what you're trying to do? It's not always as smart as it thinks. Plus, you need practice doing this. So don't accept its automatic thing. We're going to do it again. So leave your cursor in the next box. Again, select the function button, select sum, and highlight the next column, the total in the oats, and then hit enter. Okay, so the total observations of mealworms in styrofoam was 28 and in oats was 23. Fun times. Now we highlight all of this, including the little headings for these 2 columns. Highlight all of that and click on the chart button. Okay, so it's like, not sure what you want. Do you want pie? You know you don't want pie. You want a bar graph. Yay! All right, so this is already looking like what we want. It's correctly set up. The setup is correct. Now let's customize it. And so we're going to just run through the aspects of this, these different components like we did for the line graph. Chart style, not worried about it. Nothing doing. Chart and axis titles for sure. So chart title, this chart title makes no sense. So we're going to fix it. Do mealworms prefer to be in areas with oats or styrofoam? Question mark. Fun times, okay? And then you can fix your spelling. So we have our title. Now we need our subtitle, chart subtitle. Timed observations every 5 minutes for 85 minutes. And then sample size equals 3 mealworms. Okay, so it's important, you know that sample size is important. Oftentimes graphs will report the sample size right there. It helps people interpret the strength and validity of the data. The X and Y axis labels are correct. How did it know? Well, because those are the words that you have here and here, right? And when you highlighted them, you enabled it just to pull those words from your data. So you saved yourself a little effort there in fixing your axis labels. Now, basically, we need to go back to edit chart. We need to change the color. So that's in series. So if we click on series, total observations of mealworms, we don't want that to be blue. We want it to be red. Fun times. Okay, so we almost have it. Last thing, you'll notice that in the graph you want the actual total numbers in each of these bars, which is a nice little touch. So if you scroll down in series, this is still in series, and you can click on data labels, it'll just put that there. So you know that the total for styrofoam was 28 and in oats was 23. And there you have it.